the entire internet doesn't call me the Cavernacle for nothing. It's basically because even with my pretty small following on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, all those places, is that I've managed to bring down massive content creators, massive celebrities, people like Mr. Beast and Moist Critical, or Chris Pratt and Salt Bae. I've cancelled all of these people because that is how cancel culture works. You basically make a video exposing someone and talking about the bad things they do, and then they never get a job again. Oh wait, all of these people are still very successful and they're still thriving. Perhaps, despite many of you Americans not actually realizing it, I was actually making a little commentary on supposed cancel culture that I've actually maintained this whole time doesn't actually exist. And I'm going to use today's story to illustrate my point, is that Jordan Peterson and his fans are saying Ethan Klein is cancelling him because he removed 2 H3 podcasts filmed in, I think, November 2017 and February 2018 of Jordan Peterson, because now Ethan Klein, having gone through a political evolution over the last 6 years, doesn't agree with Jordan Peterson's views, and also realises, like many people, Jordan Peterson has essentially gone insane, and any pretense of him not being on the far right has now completely gone, as he's constantly retweeting getter posts by Tommy Robinson on Twitter. So today what we're going to do is recap the drama for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, and also go over some of my older content about Ethan Klein's political evolution to make the point about this stuff. And then I want to talk more broadly about cancel culture. It feels like this video has been coming for like the last 5 months or so, and talk about how cancel culture doesn't actually exist, especially in the way that conservatives often cry about them being cancelled. And of course we just have like loads of examples, probably the most noteworthy being Mel Gibson. But if being cancelled was so easy, then why do we have so many hateful conservatives being like propped up by so many massive like television studios, or, you know, Ben Shapiro having a partnership with Facebook and stuff like that? If we're so effective at cancelling people, why do these people still have absolutely huge platforms? But we're going to get into that in the video. Before we get any further, lots of you always tell me this, that you don't like my videos because I don't remind you. So please like the video, maybe post a comment as well. If you want to support my work going forward, no matter what happens with YouTube, if there's another adpocalypse or anything like that, please consider becoming a patron. Like I always say, I'm trying to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible to make a sustainable Patreon. And what you get for that at the moment is my Nintendo Switch friend code and access to the private patrons Discord server. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter and on Instagram, and come join our communities at Discord and my subreddit. Also subscribe to my second channel, the Kavernacle Extra, where I post my live stream archives. Now, one of my more popular videos over the last couple months has been the political evolution of Ethan Klein. I think Ethan Klein might have also watched it, because after I posted it, he followed me on Twitter. And it's relevant to this story because I covered the Jordan Peterson thing in this video, but I've also covered it before in another video. So to give you the quick version of what I covered in that video, basically Ethan Klein used to be like a centre-left, centrist, anti-SJW type. Someone who didn't really want to take like a firm political side on YouTube, because he felt like that was part of a massive divide that was happening with like the 2016 election, Brexit and things like that. And with this more centrist worldview in mind, on his podcast, he didn't often get very political, but sometimes he did get more political guests. So Jordan Peterson was one of them. So in my old video, I covered how they got him on 2 times and they seemed to get on really, really well. And it seems that Ethan and Hila Klein both actually like what Jordan Peterson has to say and agree with a lot of his points.
And most of the people I've talked to have been conservative. But the reason for that is they're the ones who ask me to talk. Like, I'm perfectly willing to. I actually did a talk in Vancouver about a year ago now called A Left-Wing Case for Freedom of Speech. You know, because you can make a very strong left-wing case for freedom of speech. In fact, a stronger case, I would say, in some sense, because to the degree that the left historically has genuinely been about allowing the working class a voice, which I think is classical democratic socialism, which has a very long tradition in Canada, then it's freedom of speech that's absolutely crucial for that. And so it's very straightforward matter to make a left-wing case for for free speech. That's generally who makes the case for free speech.
That's one of the things I want to talk to you about. And by the way, I consider myself like a very left-leaning, classical, progressive person. And it's confusing because growing up, the left was always the party of free speech, I felt like. I always felt like I was on the right side of social issues. But as time has progressed since I finished college, more and more I feel alienated by my own like political identity.
Yeah,
and I find myself more in terms of free speech, like you said, the people on the right are the ones that invite you. And so I'm confused. I think a lot of people feel the same way who grew up like classical progressives, but feeling alienated from their own political home. I feel like I have no identity anymore. I don't know. I don't know where I stand on which party to identify with.
Well, that's exactly the same thing that Joe Rogan told me the last time I talked to him. And my brother-in-law as well is a very, very smart guy. He said like he feels that his political affiliation has moved away from him.
I'm going to ask you about the now infamous interview that I'm sure everybody's seen by
Channel
now.
4.
With Channel 4. If you guys haven't seen it, it's terrific. Give it a watch. It's just Jordan Peterson interview Channel 4. It'll show up. It's got like over 5 million views now. The reporter was extremely confrontational. And I think the clip was so powerful because how calmly and skillfully you parried each of her verbal attacks. And, well, first of all, I'm wondering, did you anticipate that interview to be conducted like that? Were you expecting that kind of combativeness?
No. I'm in a clinical situation here. I'm not in the real world. I see. So
Is that
I'm a
what you
different
thought
person.
when that first happened? You're like, oh my God.
I thought, oh yes, I understand. It's like I see. I'm not where I thought I was.
Was that part of the reason why you were able to stay so cool and calm and collected?
Yeah, because I was just watching. Now, and I wasn't perfectly cool and collected either, because she did set me on edge. It
Quite good, though.
It was,
Quite
it
good.
was
Quite good.
It was good enough.
All things considered.
All things considered.
Yeah.
That's right. All things considered, it was good enough.
You know what? You really dominated that situation, and they owned it.
See, I don't think they knew that.
You think that after that, they're like, that was great. Let's put it
Well,
on.
I kind of know that because I had some communication afterwards. Through various channels to find out. Yeah.
So you see, their very friendly podcast have, them praising Jordan Peterson for that Channel 4 viral interview. Also talking about how Ethan felt like alienated by the modern left because they weren't for free speech. They were for maybe even cancel culture. Now, back in this time, a lot of people were still in denial that Jordan Peterson was a conservative even. Not to mention that he was part of the Fash pipeline, always banging on about cultural Marxism. Who loves cultural Marxism? Jordan Peterson always said it was part of the Marxist conspiracy, but you only need to add one more group of people that have been historically tied by conspiracy theorists to Marxism, and that is, of course, Jewish people. And the only thing you need to add to Jordan Peterson's crusade against cultural Marxism is that it's not done for the agenda of the Marxists, it's actually Jewish people using Marxists to undermine Western civilization. We made whole videos talking about Jordan Peterson and cultural Marxism, but because of his self-help stuff, a lot of people kind of like to forget the political side of that stuff. But Ethan Klein, of course, had a political evolution where now he, of course, hosts a podcast with Hasan Piker, and Hasan is very explicitly left-wing, probably more left-wing than Ethan, but it's clear his politics have changed. If you want to get into all the nuance of that, please watch my other video, because I'm not going to go over all of that because it would just be the same video here. So it stands to reason someone who's had a political evolution to the left, while Jordan Peterson has gone completely unhinged to the far right, might not want videos of them two together speaking up on his channel anymore, because it might influence people and make people think Jordan Peterson is actually a rational guy that should be taken seriously. Because like I said in my civil podcast videos, the thing with Joe Rogan and the H3H3 podcast is that it's a very civil discussion. It's quite promotional in tone. There's not much challenge or rebuttal to people's points. So the person who's the guest often comes out seeming a lot more reasonable than they actually are. So now we're going to go over the cancelling of Jordan Peterson by Ethan Klein. If you think you know about all of this stuff, there are timestamps in the description, so please feel free to skip ahead. So Ethan Klein tweets the other day, "Years ago, I interviewed Jordan Peterson before I was very familiar with his politics. He was an interesting guest who I enjoyed sitting with, but especially now I can see he's a dangerous gateway to the alt-right, transphobia, and medical misinformation. I removed both interviews today. Everyone's favourite progressive right-wing grifter, who I also called out years ago, Kim Iverson, saying, yay, censorship. I love it when you decide what's good for me to hear. Someone else writing, my room after this happened, and Ethan Klein responding, it's okay, Jordan's room is also messy. And then Jordan Peterson, who did not take this well at all, saying, not anymore. It's now shiny, clean, and beautiful too, like the rest of my house, now that I finished renovating and recovering from being ill. Well, Jordan Peterson, I've made videos about this as well. You were giving lots of people self-help advice and guilting them into thinking a lot of their problems are personal failings while not actually following your own rules for life yourself. For someone tweeting, Ethan Klein removed both his interviews with Jordan Peterson, Lamau man, the right-wingers are going to be so triggered. And then Jordan Peterson must have been name-searching himself because he said, don't you understand at all what you are participating in? Don't you think this could happen to you and those you value? How can you be so sure that the pendulum won't swing your way? It has before, you know, and when it does again, remember your words and repent. So please get ready to enjoy some prime Peterson cope. This guy is just getting more unhinged by the day. What are you up to, Ethan? We had a good conversation. I enjoyed meeting you and talking with you. What have I said precisely that motivated your actions and your accusations? Deleting our discussion. An honest question at H3H3 Productions. Finally, you might seriously consider providing me with the footage so I can post it, given that I agreed to appear on your show, based on the agreement that there would be, in fact, a show. Also, I should warn you that those who engage in cancel culture generally live to regret it. I'm not going to come after you except politely in this Twitter stream, but the chickens will definitely come home to roost. You will be held to a higher and higher and soon impossible to maintain ethical standards by the very mob you currently wish to please. Then you will make a mistake and they will devour you with glee. Please take this warning seriously. I liked you. So Ethan Klein responding to why he doesn't like him anymore. You believe in enforced monogamy from the New York Times interview. Characterization of Bill C-16 resulted in a surge of transphobia. The bill was created to add trans people as a protected group against hate crimes. Using the wrong pronoun would not result in anyone going to jail. In fact, to this day, 0 people have gone to jail. Using the wrong pronouns would need to be considered in totality with other actions for it to be considered a hate crime, basically like any other crime. As a person, I found you amicable and our conversation very interesting and insightful, but I'm just not comfortable being a part of a pipeline leading to takes like this. We're going to get back to Jordan Peterson going absolutely insane lately, but Angelo Isidoro wrote this article that Jordan Peterson posted in response to Ethan, and he says, is Ethan Klein going to return all the money and subs he made as a result of hosting Jordan Peterson? Angelo, bro, you clearly do not know how YouTube works. Look, I don't know if Ethan Klein paid Jordan Peterson to be on this podcast, but going on a podcast of this size is definitely more beneficial to Jordan Peterson. And any subscribers who subscribe to Ethan for Platform and Jordan Peterson will be long gone by now. So here's what the article says, just pretty much coping with this entire situation. Jordan Peterson schools Ethan Klein on cancel culture after YouTuber deletes videos. Ironically, Ethan Klein rose to fame for making comedic videos about crazy, eccentric, or insincere people online. Yet much has changed since the old days of YouTube, as has Klein. Since hitting a lull in his comedic YouTube career, Klein pivoted to podcasting and hosted numerous famous figures, including Dr. Peterson. The success of his podcast led Klein to collaborate with various leftist commentators, including Hasan Piker. The two now have a show together called The Leftovers. The evolution of Klein's politics is metaphorical licking of the finger and seeing which way the wind blows. It's a relatively recent evolution, and it's heavily tied to whoever he is currently collaborating with. However, a new identity comes with a new audience who may see Klein's old associations as verboten. Peterson is one such forbidden figure for Klein's new subscribers. It's perhaps not a stretch to say that the Ethan Klein of 2022 would likely be the subject of a comedic ridicule by the Ethan Klein of 2016 that we all loved. It would be a mistake to say that Ethan Klein has become radicalized because it is fundamentally clear he isn't remotely literate in any leftist dogma, including the most basic of Pravda. Many of his fans have been quick to point out that Klein is incredibly impressionable and has likely adopted the beliefs of the bread tubers he surrounds himself with. This is why Peterson's earnest request to know exactly what his sins are will never be met with any truthful response. Of course they were. Klein will not ignore the request as he needs attention, but will instead grossly mischaracterize Peterson and activate leftist allies to speak for him. With this in mind, what comes next for Klein? He is continuously diving deeper and deeper into the left and peacocking aggression towards right-wing figures. Earlier this month, Klein attacked Joe Rogan. Oh, how could anyone attack Joe Rogan, that knucklehead, for his health choices, and now Klein attacks Peterson for his moral philosophy. Klein continues to try and cancel every figure he considers a threat to his new dogma. Apparently, he didn't have dogma a second ago, unaware that Peterson's warning may well come true. Klein himself is cancelled. He will be left with no reasonable allies to defend him. Only inquisitors of the purity mob he created. Even responding to Jordan Peterson posting this article, "This is my problem, Jordan. You asked for specific reasons, I provided them. Instead of acknowledging my response, you attract further into the bubble of flatterers and devotees, talking of how you schooled me on cancel culture. You didn't school me, Jordan. Your room is as messy as your mind. And Jordan, regarding cancel culture, the only thing that has ever guided me is my moral compass. Everything else is just noise. The mob is free to cancel me as it will, and they have plenty of times. And actually, cancelling, as you call it, sometimes is a good experience, as painful as it is. The times when I receive the most flack on things I've said are the times I've learnt the most about myself and the world, and how to be more mindful and caring of others. It's not always a call for defensiveness and shrinking. There is always growth to be had. I will speak to people I trust that challenge me. You, on the other hand, surround yourself with yes men. Growth is human." Then Michaela Peterson writing, thank goodness Ethan is out there saving the world from dangerous people like Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is very dangerous in my opinion. How is fleecing your father's fandom going? $100 per month for the Lion Club, teaching people that eating only meat cures all ailments. Must have been nice to be posting cute selfies from your father's social media accounts while he nearly died. Even by the ridiculous standards of like cancel culture, this one has to be the most ridiculous. So it's not like Gina Carano not getting her contract renewed for The Mandalorian season 3, where at least I can understand why people like might be upset, I guess. Ethan Klein had a podcast. He has episodes of a podcast. It's his YouTube channel. He can do whatever he wants with those videos. He does not have to keep them up. I have taken down YouTube videos mainly because I don't want copyright strikes and stuff like that, but I've taken them down. And on this channel, I've platformed two people, Suris, and I've platformed Nerdette's Newsstand. I agree with these guys on a lot of stuff, especially Suris. With Nerdette, we have our differences, right? If I decided to take those things down, that isn't an attack on free speech. That isn't me cancelling someone. That isn't me censoring someone. It's my YouTube channel. Don't these conservatives love individual freedom and stuff like that? So how can't they see that people can change and maybe don't like what they used to upload on YouTube? Plenty of people do this, and then they remove that content. It's not censorship, it's not deplatforming, it's nothing like that. Jordan Peterson went on the show knowing it's not his own podcast, so it might not be around forever. If Ethan Klein just deleted his whole channel, is that censorship and deplatforming and cancelling? No, it's not. Now, we'll get back to this a bit later, but it always makes me laugh that the people who cry about cancel culture the most are actually capitalists as well. But this will become more relevant when we talk about broader cancel culture rather than this specific issue. But getting into Jordan Peterson being absolutely unhinged, and it's not surprising that someone who's had a leftward shift like Ethan Klein doesn't want to be associated with this guy anymore, doesn't want to have videos of him on his own channel anymore. Let's take a look at Jordan Peterson's Twitter over the last couple of days. Loads of people like the Quartering and everyone crying, how is Jordan Peterson a gateway to the far right? Well, Jordan Peterson was a gateway to the far right in like 2017. But at this point, he is just far right. Look at the people he is retweeting. We're going to go onto his Twitter. The pandemic has definitely brought this guy's real political positions out of the closet. So there's an article about 270 doctors calling out Joe Rogan and his podcast for essentially just spreading medical misinformation that is having such a bad effect on the world, right? So then he tweets stuff like this about protests in Austria, and then another one about another similar protest in France. Vive la France. Then he's retweeting Kevin Sorbo about Joe Rogan. Then he's retweeting stuff about Elon Musk saying that you shouldn't pay tax and saying that Elon Musk shouldn't pay tax. And now here's a good one. So there's a guy called Tommy Robinson. You might have heard of him. You might have heard how he's been deplatformed over most social media sites because of his abhorrent far-right views. Of course, he's on Getter. Now, Jordan Peterson isn't just retweeting Tommy Robinson's Getter posts. He's actually just posting them. So Belfast, Genoa, Luxembourg, Rome, all of these right-wing protests, he's sharing Tommy Robinson's post about them. I'm not just talking about a gateway to extreme right-wing beliefs. This guy is essentially posting them now. And of course, he's also retweeting Lauren Chen as well. The only circles Jordan Peterson swims in these days are hard right ones. So anyone who follows Jordan Peterson on Twitter and likes Jordan Peterson will now start thinking, Tommy Robinson is actually okay as well. And Tommy Robinson is a rational person. The pandemic has clearly brought Jordan Peterson's crazy beliefs out of the closet. And it's more bizarre because you think someone would be more concerned about the health issues in the world right now, considering he has been very, very sick and had to go into a very, very dangerous medically induced coma to try and treat his addiction issues. You think that would make him, I guess, more sympathetic to science, but of course, even doing something so dangerous like that shows the disregard. He might even show his own body. The right wing always pretend they're like really, really macho, but then they will cry at the slightest like insult against them. Now, as far as cancel culture goes, this is one of the more ridiculous examples because to me it makes absolutely no sense. You were on a podcast, someone took the podcast down, you're not being cancelled, you still have a massive Twitter platform, you still have your own massive YouTube podcast. How, Jordan Peterson, have you been cancelled because someone who has shifted their politics left doesn't want to be associated with you anymore? It just seems like one guy doesn't like you anymore, and you say that as cancelling. But let's go to the broader issue. Like I said, cancel culture does not exist. Cancel culture is totally ridiculous because often the people getting cancelled are just famous people who do really awful things and then get called out, go away for a tiny bit, and then come back like nothing's happened because they still have fans and they still have power. So Mel Gibson is an absolutely prime example of this. Exposed as someone who was deeply, deeply racist on an audio recording, he just went away and then he comes back. He starts acting again. He makes Hacksaw Ridge, which is nominated for multiple Oscars, and he gets nominated for Oscars. Why can Mel Gibson do that? Because he is a powerful actor, a well-connected actor, and his fans don't actually care about this stuff. So a lot of people cared about it. A lot of people were offended. I'm sure a lot of people won't work with him again, but because of capitalism as well, Mel Gibson is a bankable name. Mel Gibson is someone who will direct you a good film if you give him the resources. He is actually a very talented director, so he didn't remain cancelled for that long. Even someone like Roman Polanski, who got away with one of the most grossest things any celeb has, he still makes movies. He was still nominated for Oscars for The Pianist. How was that guy cancelled? Again, cancel culture does not exist for the rich and powerful. So another example from last year that people were crying about with cancel culture was Gina Carano. So Gina Carano was a co-star on Disney Plus's, of course, very, very successful show, The Mandalorian. Now, I made a whole video about that, so if you really can, you missed the whole drama, please go check that out. I'll put it on screen and hopefully put a card on screen as well. But basically, she posted stuff that was very similar to Jordan Peterson, and it seemed like Disney had not renewed her contract anyway because of this. And in my mind, with my tinfoil hat on, it seemed like it was planned with her and the Daily Wire to drum up a bit of support for her new project. Lucasfilm announced that they weren't going to renew her contract, and then she comes out and says, I'm making a film with Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire. Everyone screamed about cancel culture, cancel culture. Gina Carano has been cancelled by the woke mob. So being cancelled is not getting your contract renewed by Disney and Lucasfilm because you post insane stuff on social media, and then you immediately walk into a brand new job where you will probably be paid a good deal of money, and you can also keep saying all this ridiculous stuff because the people backing you agree with it, and apparently that is cancel culture. So it's just like totally absurd. Is that what being cancelled is? You get to walk away from a very lucrative gig into another one. Is that being cancelled? I want to be cancelled if that's the case. But these guys are all right-wing capitalists, so I'm not a capitalist, I'm an anti-capitalist. But let me put my capitalist thinking mode on. If I'm a true capitalist, right, Disney is this massive corporation. It makes decisions based on profit, right? So Gina Carano is upsetting a lot of your fans. Gina Carano is upsetting a lot of people who might buy Disney Plus to watch Mandalorian or might keep subscribing until the next season comes out. So you make a decision, right? Do you keep Gina Carano's quite popular character on the show at the risk of alienating a lot of customers, or do you cut her and you kind of pander to those customers? And you will be pandering to those customers to make as much profit as possible. If I was a capitalist, I would say, well, that might suck for Gina Carano, it might suck for people who liked her, but this company has every right to do that because it's a company that only cares about making money, which you guys claim to love this economic system. So what's the problem there? She could have just kept silent and kept going on with this very, very popular show and very, very lucrative show for her, but she wanted to talk about stuff on social media, which is her right to do so, but that doesn't mean there are no consequences. If it upsets the people who like a certain capitalist product, then how do you think the corporation is going to react? It's not censorship to not give an actor another massive contract for their political views. And also, let me just say, people like Gina Carano and Jordan Peterson, their views aren't just like normal conservative. It's not like someone like Tim Allen, who continues to get a lot of work in Hollywood because he isn't totally insane like you guys are. It's these new types of conservatives who insist on being like far right. That is why these companies want to distance themselves so much from you. But then a lot of companies don't care. You know, Mel Gibson got another job. Roman Polanski got another job. I'm sure Gina Carano will get other gigs in Hollywood as well. Just losing out on one show doesn't mean you've been cancelled, because I assumed what cancel culture meant is that what you were censored, is that you were deplatformed, is that no one could hear you speak because of the woke mob cancelling you. But this is how a lot of right-wingers have also got it in their head, that corporations are somehow woke because they deeply care about political issues and they deeply care about moral issues. And suddenly all corporations in America just only care about morals. They don't care about profit anymore. Not that Disney is continually making more and more insane profit every single year and creating its own monopoly on both TV shows and movies. But the fact of the matter is, if you have enough power and capital, you essentially can't be cancelled. Like Tommy Robinson still has a platform, Alex Jones still has a platform. Loads of people who've been deplatformed and supposedly cancelled even worse than Gina Carano and Jordan Peterson still have their platforms. Why? Because they have money, fame, and influence. If you have those things, it is very, very hard to be cancelled as the right-wingers envision it. And like I was saying, my whole bit on YouTube has been as the Kavernacle is just to make the point that the way cancel culture works in people's heads is not actually true, because if it was true, I've cancelled Mr. Beast. Those videos have thousands and thousands of views. I cancelled Moist Critical, I've cancelled Salt Bae, Chris Pratt. All those videos have done really, really well. Lots of them have told people why these people are bad. Are those people cancelled? No. And you can see in action why. Go on the comment section of those videos. Loads of people will defend these people no matter what I say. They don't care. Even if it is objectively an awful thing, they will still defend these people. They say stuff like, you're jealous, it's not that deep, bro, it's not that bad, everything like that. Because at the end of the day, if your fans stay loyal, it doesn't matter. R. Kelly still had a career for ages. People still like Bill Cosby after he was convicted. Of course, he's free now, because cancelling does not work if you are rich and powerful. Just to elaborate on my point a bit more, a good article with David Dennis Jr. for News One. Cancel culture is a myth to silence marginalised voices. David saying, the phrase cancel culture has been one of the most popular new things for people to say without really having any clue what it actually means. The prevailing definition of cancel culture is the idea that saying the wrong thing, having old inflammatory tweets or sound bites resurface, or having unpopular political reviews will ultimately result in social media's cancelling the offending party. To cancel then is to sick the wrath of social media upon someone, with the end result being some sort of catastrophic blow to said person's career. The prevalence of these cancel moments has caused people to characterise the leaders of so-called cancel culture, namely young marginalised communities, as too sensitive, always needing to find something to criticise, to find fault in, leading to an idea that free speech is dying at the hands of those pesky millennials. But here's the problem, cancel culture isn't an actual thing because nobody really truly gets cancelled, and the continued use of the phrase is like some bogeyman, is only a thinly veiled method of marginalising the people around us who want to vocalise and their respective communities were wronged. At the same time, however, the persistence in people in the public eye to scream cancel culture and call marginalised folks too sensitive or themselves intolerant is simply a means to control narratives and live with the freedom of being a bigot without consequence. No, society isn't getting more sensitive, we're just getting more vocal and using social media as a means to articulate the need to tell everyone to do better. Yelling cancel culture when a member of the LGBT community won't let Kevin Hart off the hook for his old jokes, gaslights the person and suggests that demanding the comedian answer for his words is somehow unreasonable. Crying cancel culture is simply begging to be as loud and hateful as possible with little recourse. Cancel culture is a myth. The reality is there are more people with amplified voices who are refusing to sit silently while the communities come under attack by those with the social capital to cause harm. When that happens, awareness is raised, people are uncomfortable, and hopefully some are deterred from being trash. But in reality, for the overwhelming majority of instances, nobody gets fully cancelled or faces life-changing consequences or silencing. They'll still earn their money, maintain their notoriety, and go about their careers unscathed. They'll just know that there'll be folks ready to call them out at every step of the way if they show they haven't bothered to learn from their transgressions. So J.K. Rowling is probably the biggest example of someone who has been cancelled by her own fan base, by actors who worked on the original Harry Potter, even some actors who work on Fantastic Beasts, which she writes the screenplay for. And she just double downs while everyone cries about her being cancelled, while, like I said, she still writes the third Fantastic Beasts movie. After being cancelled, she released a book that immediately became one of the best sellers of that year. Again, being held accountable and people telling you that they don't like your political views, and then you just continuing your life and making loads of money is not cancel culture. Again, where are the consequences besides people telling you they don't like your political views? And this comes from the group of people who popularized the term snowflakes for us lefties. But it seems like these guys can't take any criticism of themselves, and they cry and they cry. Like with Jordan Peterson, they cry their messiah has been cancelled. They cry Joe Rogan has been criticised because these meatheads have no critical thinking skills. So if you're watching this video and you're not a fan of mine and you're not a subscriber, there are lots of people like you who didn't realise I was making a joke about cancel culture because, as someone put it, my tone was serious. Therefore, I must have been serious. I guess sarcasm doesn't work on the internet, even if you're actually speaking in front of a camera. But yes, I've been making this joke for a long time because it's just ridiculous. The woke mob on Twitter, however you like to see it, do not have political power. We don't have wealth, really. We just call people out when they have bad views, right? That rarely ever translates to someone like losing their job or something like that. Only when the backlash is absolutely massive, sometimes capitalist corporations, to make as much money as possible, maybe will take an action, let an actor go, maybe they won't renew their contract like Gina Carano, to try and appease what they think are their customers. But you right-wingers, don't you love capitalism? Don't you love freedom? So these corporations in your mind should have the freedom to do as they please in the pursuit of profit. So Jordan Peterson is cancelled, Mr. Beast is cancelled, J.K. Rowling is cancelled. All of these people are cancelled because me and many other people like me have cancelled them thoroughly. And they'll never work again, and they'll never make money again, and they'll never be platformed by anyone again. That's just the way it works. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you want to follow me on social media, at the Kavernacle on Twitter and Instagram, come and join our communities on Discord and my subreddit. If you want to support my work, check out my Patreon, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.